Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, just picture this. You're a lawyer, you're under pressure, and you turn to an AI for a little help. But the AI doesn't just help, it makes things up. It literally invents entire legal cases out of thin air. Today, we are diving into the true story of what happened when those AI-generated lies landed in front of a judge and how one of our oldest institutions dealt with a very, very new kind of problem. So what does happen? I mean, this isn't some hypothetical from a law school exam. This is real life. It actually went down in an Australian courtroom. And the answer? Well, it tells us so much about this incredible collision course between ancient institutions and brand new technology. It's a story about a major professional crisis, for sure, but also, surprisingly, a huge lesson in justice itself. All right, let's set the scene, shall we? It starts out as just another day in family court. A totally standard hearing gets underway, but by the afternoon, the whole thing has just completely spiraled into high drama, and it all started with a single piece of paper handed to the judge. Let's walk through exactly how a normal day unraveled so spectacularly. So this whole thing kicked off with a property dispute between a Mr. Honda and a Miss Malik. It was a pretty standard hearing, really, just about enforcing a financial agreement they'd already made. Nothing out of the ordinary. Or at least, that's how it seemed at first. Now, this is a completely 100% routine part of any court case. The judge is basically just saying, hey, show me your work. Back up your arguments with some actual law. She's giving the lawyers a chance to prove their points during a short recess. It's an everyday request that, in this case, would end up changing everything. So, in response to this, lawyer B, who's representing the husband, he hands over this one-page document. It's a list of 4 cases, and this list, which would later be marked as Exhibit A, was supposed to be his ace in the hole, right? This was the legal firepower that was going to convince the judge and win the day for his client. And this is the exact moment the entire day goes completely off the rails. The judge and her staff, they take this list, they go back to their chambers to look up the cases, and nothing. They search the legal databases, they check everything, but they hit a total brick wall. The case names look plausible, the citations look real, but the cases themselves, they're phantoms. They're ghosts in the legal machine. So you can imagine what happens next. When the court comes back from its break, that original property dispute, totally forgotten. The entire focus of the courtroom has now shifted squarely onto lawyer B and that single problematic piece of paper. I mean, can you just feel the tension in that room? The original arguments are completely out the window. Judge Humphreys looks straight at the lawyer, and with all the authority of the court, she asks a question that just cuts right through everything. Wow. I mean, think about the directness of that question. She doesn't ask if he made a mistake or if maybe his research assistant was sloppy. No, she goes straight for the jugular, straight to the tech. Was this AI? There is absolutely no room to hide. And there it is, the confession. Lawyer B admits it. Yep, he used an AI feature built into his legal software, a program called Leap, to come up with that list of cases. And with that one admission, this whole thing just explodes. It goes from a possible, maybe embarrassing, clerical error to a crystal clear case of misusing technology in a really high-stakes environment. Okay, so the lawyer has made a massive, potentially career-ending mistake. But what happens next is what's truly fascinating. It's a brilliant example of how a mature justice system is supposed to work when it's under pressure. The judge's response? It's nothing short of a masterclass in fairness. Instead of reacting with anger or punishing him on the spot, Judge Humphreys followed this incredibly clear, methodical process. First, she identified the seriousness of what happened. Second, she protected the client, Mr. Handa, by suggesting he get independent advice. Third, she made sure to guarantee the lawyer's own rights. And finally, and this is brilliant, she separated the two issues, the lawyer's conduct over here and the original property case over there. This whole approach boils down to a core legal idea called procedural fairness. And really, it's the bedrock of the whole system. What it means is that even when somebody is so clearly in the wrong, they still have to be given a formal chance to be heard, to explain themselves before any final decision is made. It's what keeps the process itself just. And this quote from the judge's ruling just nails the point perfectly. Her own words confirm her #1 priority. Her goal wasn't instant revenge or retribution. It was to make sure the lawyer was afforded procedural fairness, to kick off a proper, fair investigation, not to hand down a sentence right then and there. All right, let's get into the consequences. Let's see how this one mistake sent ripples outwards, affecting not just the lawyer, but his client and the entire case. The judge did not waste any time. First, she hit pause on the original case. It was immediately postponed. Then, she created a whole separate formal process just to deal with the lawyer's conduct, ordering an inquiry and giving him exactly 1 month to write up a formal explanation. And maybe most importantly, she put him on notice that he might have to personally pay for all the time and money wasted by this delay. What's really interesting here is how this whole incident shows the differences in how legal systems handle this kind of thing. So in Australia, the court's job is to spot the problem and then refer it to a separate, independent body for investigation. But in a system like China's, the courts get more directly involved, issuing what's called a judicial suggestion to the local justice bureau. So both take it super seriously, but the big difference is who runs the investigation. Okay, so this all happened in an Australian courtroom, but let's be real, the lessons here are absolutely universal. They apply to every single one of us, especially as we start using these powerful new AI tools in our own work, in our own lives. First and most important lesson, you are always responsible. The AI is not accountable for the work it produces, you are. The buck always, always stops with the human in the chair. Second, the AI told me so is just not gonna fly. It's the dog ate my homework. The professional standard, whether you're a lawyer or a student or an accountant, is to check your work. Blindly trusting what an algorithm spits out is just a recipe for disaster. And third, shortcuts have consequences. I mean, look at Lawyer B. His attempt to save a bit of time, it ended up costing his client more time, more money, and it put his own career in serious jeopardy. Being honest and diligent is always, in the long run, the smartest and safest strategy. This case of the ghost cases, it's one of the first of its kind, but you and I both know it is not going to be the last. And it leaves all of us with a really critical question to think about as these tools get woven deeper and deeper into our lives. As the AI gets smarter and smarter, how do we make sure that we stay wiser?